government stance on Kashmir is absolutely clear. It was our jugular vein. It is our jugular vein. We will not forget it. And we will not leave our Kashmiri brethren in their heroic struggle, what they are waging against the Indian occupation.
Ladies and gentlemen, wish we could say good evening to you, but it's clearly not a good evening, and clearly not for those who've lost their loved ones. I want you to look at some clear, hard, bold, direct facts on the news night before we begin telling you absolutely anything about anything else. Let's bring up those details, that loud, screeching details in terms of images, in some of facts that you see on your screens. India, ladies and gentlemen, is bleeding tonight. Literally, we are bleeding tonight, because look at these figures on your screens. 26 individuals have lost their lives in this terror attack, this dastardly, cowardly attack that again has been perpetrated by Pakistan. You might think that, are we in a hurry to say this is Pakistan? But I think everything that you will see in the next few hours to the next few weeks will unravel again a clear Pak imprint. This is the bloodiest attack that you have seen on tourists in Kashmir in the last 20 years. The bloodiest ones that has claimed 26 lives. And many of them are still seriously injured, recuperating in a local hospital. The worst attack, ladies and gentlemen, that you have seen since Pulwama. If you thought that a surgical strike was good enough to teach Pakistan a lesson, clearly that symbolism is not working. Let's bring up more details of why these are facts that we all today must be watching very, very closely. Now, how did this attack really take place? How many people were involved is what a lot of you have been asking. So on your screens, we are putting in details. Again, these are all true sources, because this, ladies and gentlemen, is a developing story. About 4 to 5 Pakistani terrorists have been involved is what agencies tell us. They were dressed in army fatigues. They were essentially on foot. So this clearly means that they had some bit of an, support, an overground support that they had. And this, make no mistake, is a calculated act of violence. This is just not any other strike. Because the optics of this, the timing of this, absolutely important to read into. And that is why I say the timing is no coincidence. Remember, the Prime Minister is not in the country. He's right now in Saudi Arabia, but he's apprised of everything, and he has called this, quote-unquote, the act of evil. He said, we will ensure that the perpetrators are booked, because this is an India that never forgives. This is an India that never forgets. And let's not forget, the American Vice President is also in the country. He's also condemned what's happened. Those are details that are breaking on the bottom of your screens also. The Union Home Minister Amit Shah quickly spoke to the Prime Minister, and that is where he was directed to fly into Srinagar. On your screens are more images of him already chairing a meeting. And those images again will tell you that this security apparatus is right now only and only focused on giving out the clearest message, not just to Pakistan, but to the world around, that India is not just a soft power. India is no soft nation. We don't have soft edges, but we need to ensure the safety of all our citizens, also foreign citizens, considering that Pahalgam is a place that is frequented by a lot of tourists also. So we let a lot of these details, a lot of these images that are coming in remain on your screens. And let's quickly also connect with our colleague Nazir, who's been there on the ground right from the last many, many hours, getting you a lot of this information. Nazir, where about you at this point in time, and what can you tell us? We've seen the Union Home Minister Amit Shah there, who's going to be getting into an all-important meeting. What more information do we have about what is happening right now, about the manhunt that has been launched to nab these terrorists?
Well, the manhunt is a too small a thing response to deal with such type of, attack, the attack and the magnitude of the attack. It's not about killing 3 militants. Everything is fine. The fact is they wanted to send a message beyond Pahalgam, and clearly response will be beyond Pahalgam. It's seen as a Pulwama 2. And when 40 CRPF Jawans were killed, And after that, this is the biggest attack, but this time it is much more severe, much more heinous, because innocent people, 26, 28 people were killed. Two of them are believed to be foreigners as well. So what happened? It is the details are really chilling. They are really shocking beyond words. They were asked their names, apparently asking for their religious identity, and then they were killed. And timing of this attack is also very important when US Vice President is in the country. Remember in 2000, in March 2000, when then US President Bill Clinton was in India, the massacre of Sikhs, 35 Sikhs were killed that time. And there has been always any attempt for incident whenever there have been high profile visits. Home Minister has reached here. He held meeting with Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister, Lieutenant Governor, and top officials to have a holistic view of the situation. Just a few weeks back, Home Minister was here for a 3-day visit. He had a 360-degree view of the situation, but something has gone terribly wrong. Nobody had an inkling till this morning that this type of attack of this magnitude would be carried out, that too in Pahalgam, which was seen completely free from militancy, which was, while the security presence is very heavy in this area, because the fact that it's not just a tourist destination, a very important popular tourist destination, it's also a base camp for the Amarnath Yatra, and Yatra is just 2 months away. So before that, this type of attack is clearly a chilling reminder how situation has taken. It has completely shattered that deceptive calm in the valley, and what was seen that valley is normal and theater of militancy has shifted to Jammu. That may have been a deception. It is as much a bigger challenge as it was before, but rather than much more serious attack. Last time when we saw tourists or the yatris being targeted in the valley was in 2017. And since then, it was the first attack in the valley on tourists, and never have we seen such an attack of this magnitude happening. This is clearly crippling, not only killing these innocent people, but also crippling the tourism sector in the valley. Message is very clear: don't come to Kashmir. Because recently we saw Pakistani Army Chief General Asim Munir talking about Kashmir being the jugular vein of Pakistan, talking about two-nation theory and Hindu-Muslim binary. So after that, we see this attack. For whole day afternoon, we saw army choppers making frequent sorties in Pahalgam, and the number of ambulances around clearly shows the magnitude of the tragedy. So several people are injured, more than a dozen. Condition of some of this still critical. Tomorrow, it is expected that Home Minister may visit Pahalgam as well. Yes. But we have to see what would be the response beyond Pahalgam about this incident, because tragedy is still unfolding. It would be a long night for the relatives who have still no idea what exactly has happened, and for the security force also who have launched an operation here.
Yes. And a terrible story to report also, Nazir, I must say, considering what we've seen, a lot of those videos that already have gone viral. But we here at NDTV, keeping the sensitivity of the entire situation in mind, remember, are not putting out those videos. But let me tell you, 26. And like Nazir said, whether it is the timing, whether it is the motive, everything is so very important. As I thank him quickly, but remember, I just want to take up from what Nazir just mentioned. Remember the Pak angle here? Whenever you talk of terror, you think about Pakistan, the rogue state called Pakistan, its plausible deniability. Umpteen amount of proof Pakistan says is not good enough to pin the blame on us. But then forget every other proof. If you just rewind to the last 5 to 6 days, you don't even have to, do too much of hard work. There is this Pak Army Chief. I want you to just take the next few seconds before I introduce our panel of guests. That is the man we are talking about, the head of the deep state in Rawalpindi there in Pakistan. He is not just putting out that inflammatory comment, but many analysts that we've spoken to here through the day and many in the security apparatus believe that if you just watch and hear word by word what he has said, you possibly can find the clearest Pak angle and the Pak provocation behind what's happened in Pahalgam tonight. Listen in to what he said.
Our stance, government stance on Kashmir is absolutely clear. It was our jugular vein. It is our jugular vein. We will not forget it. And we will not leave our Kashmiri brethren in their heroic struggle, what they are waging against the Indian occupation. And we have fought 3 wars for Kashmir. Well, our forefathers, they thought that we are different from the Hindus in every possible aspect of life. Our religion is different. Our customs are different. Our traditions are different. Our thoughts are different. Our ambitions are different. That was the foundation of the two-nation theory that was laid there. That we are two nations. We are not one nation.
So did you hear him in the clearest terms speaking about Kashmir? And that is the reason why a lot of people here in the establishment also believe that this again has a clear Pak hand written all over it. Whether you look at the modus operandi, whether you look at the fact how a lot of this place was wrecked, whether about the targets, because there are also apparently reports of a lot of tourists that got segregated on the basis of religion. Though these, remember, are not confirmed reports, and we will wait for more finality and clarity to come on this story, but we here are reporting what we know about the incident so far. Let's also take this moment to introduce our panel of guests. We have SP Veggie, who's the former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, joining us. We also have Lieutenant General DS Huda Saab, who's the former Northern Army Commander. Sir, thank you so much for your time tonight on News Night. And Robert Dobbs is an expert on intelligence. Robert, thank you also for taking our time on this, very, very important but a very difficult day, I think, as both SP Ved Saab and Lieutenant General Huda will be looking at these figures coming in, these dramatic images. And with your permission, I want to put forward for our viewers straight questions, because these are straight questions that we will try to find an answer to during the course of this conversation. The first big question now will go up on your screens, ladies and gentlemen, and that has to be about the Pakistan hand here. Is there a clear Pak hand behind the attack that you have seen in Pahalgam? That is right now with a question mark, but I'm sure later, again, it will be proven that yes, there is a clear Pak imprint behind what has happened. What about the timing? And that's the second big question. Timing, that is no coincidence. At a point where the Prime Minister is traveling to Saudi Arabia, where you also have the American Vice President here, because like Nazir also mentioned, remember when Bill Clinton was traveling to India, you had a high-profile attack. When Barack Obama was traveling, again, you had an attack. Because this is a similar disruption tactic that is used by Pakistan time and again. This brings us to our third straight question, that why have tourists been targeted? Because this, remember, has been a one-off rule, though it is not written anywhere, but something that has largely been agreed on, that we do not target tourists, because then you affect the locals here, their livelihood gets affected, the tourist inflow gets affected. But that has been done, that red line, that Rubicon has been crossed. This brings us to our fourth straight question, the role of the Pak Army Chief. And now that you've heard that comment, do you believe that is inflammatory or not? Why is he making a comment like this? Is he someone who sponsored this? Was he aware of this? Did he engineer these? These are obviously questions that we will have to try to find an answer to. And the final, the most important question that a lot of you have been asking. How will India act? Because our response, ladies and gentlemen, can no longer be ambiguous. A surgical strike, symbolism, not good enough. Because this is the rogue state Pakistan. Without wasting time, I want to first get in Lieutenant General DS Huda Saab on his comments on how he sees the entire situation and what is it, sir, that we must be doing now?
So let me see. You asked the question about whether there is a direct Pakistan hand. I mean, for those of us and DG Police is here. It's been quite clear to us since 35 years that there is a clear and direct Pakistan hand to inciting terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir. And so when you look at this incident and look at the whole history behind terrorist violence in Jammu and Kashmir, it's been perpetrated by terror groups, largely that are based in Pakistan. What we've seen also over the last perhaps a year and a half is that there has been an increase in infiltration. We've seen terror attacks in peaceful areas in Jammu region that were actually militancy free for almost 10-15 years. And now the targeting of tourists in Pahalgam, and another question why tourists have been targeted. Because I think there is desperation among the terrorist groups to show that Kashmir is unstable. And since they are unable to target security forces, let's look at some weak targets. And of course, there is the messaging of, why at this time, when we have the Vice President of the US here, our own Prime Ministers in Saudi Arabia, the attempt to internationalize the Jammu and Kashmir issue. So I think when you look at this one incident, it should be seen in view of the whole strategy that Pakistan has adopted with regard to Kashmir. So I'll stop here, and then maybe we can take this discussion forward.
Yes, I think that's an important premise that you've begun this entire conversation on. And though I know, Huda Saab, you have limited time, but if you can engage with us for some bit more time, we can kind of take this story ahead. And I must tell our viewers, these are live images right now coming in of the Union Home Minister Amit Shah, who's in Srinagar. And at this point, past 10, he's chairing that all-important security review meeting. So you're obviously looking at a response that has to come in SP itself. But again, because you worked in that sector, you know the in and outs of everything there, whether it's the terror apparatus, the overground workers. Tell me something, if these were about 3 to 4 terrorists that are believed to be involved in today's attacks, dressed in army fatigues, they clearly must have had some support. Has there been an intel failure here?
I have no doubt about that. Without failure, such a major attack cannot happen. And we must admit that, number one. Number two, it's my feeling is it's a very well planned, well racked, with a signal from across the border, the handlers, whoever is handling these terrorists, to execute such an attack. This I see all these signs in this attack. Number three, this the wearing of fatigue uniform of the army or paramilitary or J&K police, whatever post uniform they were wearing, is in fact one of the we saw this happening even in Hiranagar Kathua case, where we lost 4 of J&K policemen and a deputy SP was injured, where there was a hand-to-hand, these men actually directly confronted the terrorists. They were wearing this fatigue uniform of the army, and the boys of the J&K police got confused. Probably it's a unit of para. So they said, which unit are you? So they said, we are from para. And meanwhile, as they turned, they fired on them. So I think a pattern is being seen. To create confusion, they are using army fatigue uniform or paramilitary police fatigue uniform, so that the forces or even people get confused. Where these terrorists came and attacked, they were asking whether you are, which religion are you from? So the motive of attacking tourists was to convey it was an attack of ethnic cleansing. It has a direct link with what Asim Munir, the army chief of Pakistan, was talking 2 days back. There is a linkage of his speech and this terror attack happening after 2 days. Another point I would like to mention here is earlier there used to be major chunk of local terrorists. They knew the local sensitivities. They knew that if we attack tourists, it will ultimately bounce back on them, because it will annoy the local population who all depend on the tourism, and they will go against these terrorists. Now, the major component, more than 90% component of the terrorists operating in Kashmir Valley and Jammu are foreign terrorists, those Pakistanis who have managed to enter inside. Now, these terrorists do not give a food to sentiments of Kashmiris. They are no well-wishers of Kashmiris, whether these terrorists or their handlers in Pakistan. So the Kashmiri brothers must understand that it is in their interest that these terrorists are identified, located and eliminated. Not only this particular group, the other groups operating in Kashmir Valley. Numbers are very limited. We have operated General Huda we have operated at a time when numbers were very high. Today, numbers are not that much, but the component is more than 90% is foreign terrorists. So there are, I think, direct linkages of the Pakistan. All these terrorists belong to Pakistan. They are trained and armed by Pakistan. Their launching pads are there.
Yes.
And they are being pushed deliberately. In fact, initially, they escalated violence in Jammu region, as General Huda was saying. The Jammu region was largely free of terrorism for last 15 years. But last two and a half years, we are seeing escalation. Initially in Rajouri Punch, then Riyasi and Kathua and Doda and other districts. But that actually was giving a feeling that only Jammu is being targeted. There was a sort of lull or a peace in Kashmir. But now this attack actually has punctured that. Now they wanted to puncture that narrative that
SP Vatsab, it's a huge price, you know, that we are paying. 26 lives at the end of it. Robert, just with your permission, I want to get a quick word from Lieutenant General D.S. Huda Saab before he leaves the show. Robert, then I'm going to come to you. Huda Saab, what is it that India should do right now? Because diplomatic responses, diplomatic terse words might not help. I mean, do you think an all-out military solution is the only way forward?
So I won't say all-out military solution, but as you mentioned, you know, diplomatic relations between the two countries are almost like that. We are not talking to each other. There is very little pressure that you know we can apply in terms of economic linkages. We've tried to do diplomatic pressure, FATF. Unfortunately, that's also had very limited results. So what options are you therefore left with? And so you're only left with, you know, the use of military force in some ways. Whether it's a calibrated response, whether it is kinetic, non-kinetic. But I think at the end of the day, the government will have to depend on the use of military force to attempt to, if not deter Pakistan, to tell them that there is going to be a punishing cost to what you do. So I think, frankly, that's one option that is left to the government. My only suggestion is this has to be a sort of more consistent response with a long-term strategy in view. We sometimes get sort of, if I may use the word, overexcited about, look, we've launched one strike or we've done this or on that. I think there is more consistency required in how we deal with Pakistan and how we make strategies that is going to deter Pakistan from using terrorism as an instrument of state policy against India.
All right. Robert, apologies, I had to keep you waiting, but you know, it's important to understand how we are looking at the situation internally. But tell me something, Robert, what is the big picture here? Will Pak ever have to pay a price? I mean, because India has been bearing the brunt of terrorism for far too long. And still there are a lot of those terror sympathizers out there who want to shield Pakistan. The world will have to wake up, you know, right now, Robert, and figure out that this is too high a price we pay for ensuring that Pakistan gets its weapons, Pakistan gets its diplomatic weight elsewhere. That can't be allowed anymore, Robert.
Well, I would agree. I believe that for decades now, Pakistan has been allowed to kind of, you know, constantly cross the line, right? And the United States has used various pressures, military, financial, trade, you know, even, you know, threats of force to try getting Pakistan to behave. And that hasn't occurred. And I would say it's the same for India. They've basically tried everything they can to get them to play decent, right? And I think it's time to take the gloves off of Pakistan. We have to realize Pakistan is not a democracy. It's a failed state. It's a militarized Islamic state that has ulterior motives to creating tensions within the region. And, you know, whether it's their relationship with the Taliban, utilizing the Pakistan Taliban and various terrorist groups within Pakistan to attack India. And I would say another, you know, coincidence is you just extradited Rana to India, right?
Okay.
who is also linked to the Pakistan military and ISI. So you just see these constant things happening. And one message I would like to say to the Pakistan military, be careful who you play with, right? Because eventually the United States government is going to step in. And if India would need to launch a preemptive military strike, you would not have to worry about the Pakistan nuclear arsenal, because the United States has what they call the Nuclear Emergency Support Team, which is basically Delta Force and Navy SEALs that are on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long, that are ready to intervene and interdict their nuclear weapons.
Okay,
So
Robert,
Pakistan
but we
thinks
must say this,
they
and
can
SP
push
Wetsa
people, they
will
better
agree with
behave.
this, that I think India is well within its right and its capabilities right now to respond in the same language that Pakistan understands. And this is not fear-mongering at all. Only for word of time, I'm thanking SP Wetsa and Robert right now for their time and perspective, with a promise that here at NDTV, we'll continue to get you the best voices, the analysis on what has happened, because that is what the world will be watching now. What do we do next? Let's get you Newsnight's spotting shot. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight is really going to be that long, long night, not just for the security apparatus, not just for the Home Minister Amit Shah, who's chairing a review meeting as we speak, but also for a lot of those families today who've lost their loved ones. But what is the message? Right from the Home Minister to the Prime Minister, they've reiterated this, that you will have to pay a price. And India is neither forgiving, India is not forgetting what has happened, because these are all wounds, and India will ensure that we exact a price. But the point is when and how. And that's exactly where you need to figure out unconventional consequences for Pakistan. Like you just heard from the gentleman on the show, that it's enough. Enough is also enough for Pakistan right now. That is the state we are on. So this brings us to our next important takeaway as far as the story is concerned, that India no longer can be ambiguous. You cannot be ambiguous. You have to be very clear, very direct in your approach. Because at the end of it, 26 lives have perished tonight. Tonight is a long night. India is bleeding. We want to know what will be New Delhi's response. Thank you for watching. Good night.